The galaxy had been quiet for 200 years. Most alien species thought humans were gone forever, maybe even dead. They used to be everywhere, fighting wars and making peace, but then one day they just disappeared. The younger aliens had only heard stories about the scary humans who could destroy entire fleets. On a peaceful world called Kepler 44b, the Volani people lived simple lives. They grew beautiful crystal plants and studied how to make things grow better. Looked like tall, thin people with blue skin and 4 fingers on each hand. They had never fought a war. They did not even know how to make weapons. Dr. Nolly was working late in the big communication tower in the center of their main city. She was trying to fix a broken antenna when the sky turned red. At first, she thought it was just a strange sunset. Then she heard the screaming. Black ships were falling from the sky like angry birds. They were not Volani ships. These ships looked mean and dangerous, with sharp edges and glowing red lights. The ships started shooting at the buildings with bright green beams that cut through everything like hot knives through butter. The Thakarone Empire had come to Kepler-44b. Dr. Nolly ran to the window and saw her beautiful city burning. The crystal gardens that took hundreds of years to grow were melting under the alien weapons. People were running in the streets, but they had nowhere to hide. The Thakarone soldiers were tall and covered in red armor. They had 4 arms and moved like hunters looking for prey. "We need to call for help," Nolly said to herself. Her hands shook as she turned on the big communication machine. She had never used it to call other planets before. The Volani usually only talked to each other. The building shook as another explosion hit nearby. Dust fell from the ceiling, and some of the lights went out. Nolly could hear the Thakarone soldiers getting closer. Their heavy boots made loud stomping sounds on the street below. She typed fast on the communication machine, trying to remember how to send messages to other worlds. Her teacher had shown her once, but that was years ago. The machine made beeping sounds as she worked. "Emergency message to anyone who can hear this." She spoke into the microphone. Her voice was scared but clear. "This is Dr. Nolly from Kepler 44b. We are the Volani people. We are being attacked. We have never hurt anyone. Please, if someone can hear this, we need help. There are 12 million people here, and we do not know how to fight." She pressed the big red button to send the message out into space. The message would travel faster than light to reach other worlds. But she did not know if anyone would hear it or care enough to help. The door to her room exploded. 3 Thakarone soldiers walked in, their red eyes glowing in the dark. They were much taller than Nolly and looked very angry. One of them pointed a weapon at her. "You will stop that machine," the soldier said in broken Volani language. "Please," Nolly said. "We just want to live in peace. We've done nothing wrong." The soldier laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Your world has good soil and water. The Empire needs it. You do not need it anymore." Nolly closed her eyes and hoped her message had traveled far enough into space before they destroyed the machine. Far away, in a place between the stars where nobody lived, an old machine woke up. It had been sleeping for almost 200 years, waiting in a cold asteroid field. The machine was built by humans long ago to listen for messages from space. When Dr. Nolly's desperate call reached the machine, it started working again. Lights came on for the first time in centuries. The machine began to understand the message and translate it into human language. On a human space station called Terra Nova, Admiral Kim Jae was reading boring reports about mining operations when alarms started ringing. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. His family had been soldiers for many generations, back when humans still traveled between the stars and helped other species. Commander Park So-min ran into his office. She looked worried and excited at the same time. "Sir, something impossible just happened. The old listening post in Sector 7 just turned on by itself." Admiral J put down his papers. "That post has been dead for 180 years. What made it wake up?" Commander Park showed him a screen with alien writing on it. "A distress call, sir, from a species called the Volani. They are being attacked by something called the Thakarone Empire." Admiral J read the translated message and felt something cold in his stomach. He remembered the old stories about why humans had stopped helping other species. Too many times they had tried to help, and been called monsters and bullies instead. "Get me the Colonial Council," he said quietly. "Tell them we have a choice." "To make, sir," Commander Park said carefully, "the Council voted long ago to never get involved in alien wars again." Admiral J looked at the message again. 12 million innocent people asking for help. I know what they voted. But that was before someone started calling our name. In the darkness of space, more old machines began to wake up. The emergency meeting took place deep under the moon's surface, in a huge room that had been carved from solid rock. 12 representatives from different human worlds sat around a round table, all arguing loudly. The room had not seen this much excitement in many years. Admiral Kim Jae stood in the center, wearing his old Navy uniform that still had the faded marks of battles fought long ago. His voice was strong but tired. The Shepherd Protocol exists. For exactly this reason. When peaceful people are about to die, we help them. Counselor Lee Minho from New Seoul slammed his hand on the table. He was a young man who had never seen war. "We left the galaxy alone for good reasons, Admiral. Every time we tried to help before, other species called us dangerous. He said we were trying to control everyone." "Look at these pictures, Commander," Park said, showing images of burning Villani cities on the big screen. 37 peaceful worlds have been destroyed by the Thakaron in 5 years. How many more people have to die while we sit here talking? The debate went on for hours. Some council members remembered the old days when humans had fought to protect weak species, only to be hated for it later. Others looked at the pictures of dead Villani families and felt sick. Finally, they voted. 7 people said yes, 5 said no. It was close, but it was enough, all across human space. In hidden places that had been forgotten for 2 centuries, ancient machines began to wake up. In asteroid fields and behind moons, in places where no other species ever looked, massive shipyards started working again. The sound was incredible. Machines that had been silent for generations roared back to life. Automated systems ran diagnostics on ships whose names were legend. The Seoul's Pride, the Busan Thunder, the Jeju-don warships that had been sleeping like dragons in caves. Captain Choi Hajin stood on the bridge of the Seoul's Pride as her crew worked frantically around her. She was 35 years old and had never fought in a real battle. But her great-great-grandmother had commanded this same ship in the old wars. The ship's computer spoke to her in a voice that sounded like family. "All systems are working, Captain. Engines are ready. Weapons are charging." Choi felt a strange mix of excitement and fear. The ship was huge, bigger than most space stations. Its weapons could destroy entire fleets, but it had been built to protect, not conquer. Meanwhile, on Kepler 44b, Dr. Nolly was hiding in underground tunnels with 300 other Villani survivors. They had been hiding for 6 days now, listening to the heavy footsteps of Thakaron soldiers walking above them. The tunnels were cold and dark. The children were hungry and scared. They asked their parents when help would come, but the adults did not know what to say. "Did anyone really hear our message?" whispered Elder Kesh. He was very old, and his blue skin looked pale in the dim light. Dr. Nolly checked her small computer for the 100th time that day. The message went out into space. "Someone has to care about us." She did not know that. 12 light years away. The largest human war fleet in 200 years was getting ready to jump through space to help them in the shipyards. Workers who had never expected to build warships again were working day and night. They were not soldiers, just normal people who remembered the old stories about when humans protected the weak. Engineer Park Dae-ho was checking the weapons on a destroyer called the Incheon Sword. He was 40 years old and had spent his whole life fixing mining equipment. Now he was preparing weapons that could crack planets. "These ships are incredible," he said to his assistant. "No wonder the galaxy feared us. We could have conquered everyone if we wanted to." His assistant, a young woman named Kim Yujin, nodded as she tested a shield generator. "Oh, my grandfather told me stories about the old fleet, said we were the strongest species in the galaxy, but we chose to be protectors instead of rulers. And then we chose to be nothing at all," Park Dae-ho said sadly. "Maybe that was wrong. The human fleet was not just powerful, it was smart. The ships could bend light around themselves to become invisible. They could jump through space in ways that other species could not understand. Most importantly, they could tell the difference between soldiers and civilians. Between guilty and innocent, Captain Choi watched the final preparations from her command chair. Around her officers who had trained for years for a war that never came were finally getting their chance to serve. "How long until we can jump?" she asked her navigation officer. 6 hours, Captain. All ships will be ready." Choi looked at the star map showing the location of Kepler 44b and the Thakarone. "They have no idea we are coming. Our intelligence services think humans are extinct." Choi smiled, but it was not a happy smile. They are about to learn that some things are worse than extinction. They are about to learn what justice looks like. In the tunnels below the burning Villani city, Dr. Nali heard a strange sound. It sounded like thunder, but it was coming from space, not from the sky. Something big was coming. The Thakarone patrol ship Blood Talon was flying slowly through the asteroid field near Kepler 44b. Captain Vorth sat in his command chair, looking bored. He had been a soldier for 20 years and had conquered 40 different worlds. This job was easy, just flying around looking for any ships trying to escape the planet. "Sir, I am seeing something strange on the scanner," said his weapons officer. A young Thakarone named Crix. Captain Vorth barely looked up from his meal. "Probably just rocks from the planet's defense stations. We blew them up last week, remember?" The Blood Talon changed course to investigate. Captain Vorth was still eating when his ship exploded. The entire crew of 40 soldiers died in 3 seconds. They never even saw what killed them. 3 days later, another Thakarone ship found the wreckage floating in space. It's a heavy cruiser. Dark Hammer sent investigators to look at what was left of the Blood Talon. What they found made everyone very nervous. "The damage is strange," reported the chief investigator to his captain. "These weapon marks do not match anything in our computer. Files, whatever destroyed this ship, used technology we have never seen before." Similar things started happening all over Thakarone space. Patrol ships would disappear without sending any messages for help. Supply convoys reported being followed by ships that appeared on their scanners for just a few seconds before vanishing again. The few blurry pictures they managed to take showed sleek, sharp ships that seemed to bend light around themselves. High Admiral Krex sat in his fortress on the Thakarone homeworld, reading these reports. His red eyes, which had evolved for hunting in the dark, glowed with anger and confusion. "What kind of species dares to attack the Empire?" he demanded from his intelligence chief. "We do not know, High Admiral. The energy signatures are very advanced, much more advanced than ours. But no known species in the galaxy has this technology. Find out who they are and destroy them," Krex ordered. The Empire does not accept challenges. On Kepler 44b, Dr. Nali was still hiding in the underground tunnels with the other survivors. But something had changed. Her small scanner had been picking up strange signals for 2 days now. The signals were encrypted, which meant they were secret military messages. The frequency patterns were unlike anything in Villani databases. But they were beautiful in their mathematical structure. Someone was out there, coordinating movements with perfect military precision. Dr. Nali worked for hours trying to decode just one message. Finally, she managed to translate a small part. Scout Team 5 reporting. Target assessment complete. Shepard protocol authorized. Begin Phase 3. For the first time in days, Dr. Nali smiled. Someone was coming to help them. They sounded very professional. Captain Choi Hajin stood in the observation room of the Soul's Pride, watching as her scout ships returned from their secret missions. The intelligence they had gathered painted a clear picture of their enemy. "The Thakarone are strong but stupid," reported Commander Yoon Ji-sung, her tactical officer. "They have more ships than us, but their technology is very old. They win battles by using brute force, not strategy." Choi nodded as she studied the tactical displays. The information showed that the Thakarone fought like bullies in a schoolyard. They were used to picking on weaker opponents who could not fight back. "They've never faced a real predator before," she said quietly. "They do not know what it feels like to be hunted." The human scout ships had been like ghosts in the darkness. They would appear near Thakarone vessels, scan them completely, and disappear before anyone could react. The Thackerone sensors were too primitive to track the human ships properly. Lieutenant Park Min-soo returned from a reconnaissance mission in his stealth fighter. He looked tired but excited as he reported to Captain Choi. "Their main fleet is positioned around their home world," he said. 600 ships, but they are spread out badly. Their commanders are arrogant. They think nothing can threaten them. "About their weapons?" asked Commander Yoon. "Powerful but inaccurate," Park replied. "They are designed to destroy cities and space stations, not to fight other warships. If we can avoid their first attack, we can defeat them easily." Captain Choi walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Thackerone were celebrating their conquest of Kepler for 4b, thinking they were the strongest species in the galaxy. "Send a message to Admiral J," she ordered. "Tell him we are ready to show the Thackerone what real hunters look like." Back on Kepler 4 for to be, the Thackerone occupation force was getting nervous. More and more patrol ships were disappearing. Strange energy readings appeared on their sensors at random times. Some soldiers reported seeing shadows moving between the stars. Commander Thex was in charge of the ground forces on the planet. He had been having nightmares about invisible enemies watching him from the darkness. "Double the patrols," he ordered his lieutenants. "Something is out there, and I want to know what it is." But the human observers had already learned everything they needed to know. The Thackerone were cruel, but not clever. They were strong, but not smart. They had weapons, but no wisdom. High above the planet, Captain Choi received her final orders. The time for watching was over. The time for action had begun. "All ships prepare for Phase 4, she announced to her fleet. "The hunt is about to become a battle." The human fleet appeared above the Thackerone homeworld like a nightmare coming to life. 147 ships materialized out of nowhere, their hulls shimmering with strange energy that made them look like they were made of liquid starlight. The largest ship, the Soul's Pride, was bigger than anything the Thackerone had ever built. Admiral Kim Jae's voice boomed across every communication channel on the planet. His words were calm, but carried the weight of 2 centuries of human military power. "Attention, Thackerone Empire. You have 72 hours to remove all your forces from the worlds you have conquered. Stop attacking peaceful people immediately. Do this, and your species will live. Refuse, and we will show you what happens to bullies." High Admiral Krex stood on his command platform, surrounded by his war council. His forearms spread wide in rage as he looked at the screens showing the human fleet. Round him, the Thackerone home fleet was powering up over 600 warships. "The largest military force in the galaxy. These humans dare to threaten us." Krex roared. "We have conquered 100 worlds. We are the masters of this galaxy." His intelligence officer, a nervous young Thackerone named Vex, studied the sensor. Readings. "Sir, their energy signatures are ... unusual. I recommend caution." "Caution," Krex laughed. But it was an ugly sound. We outnumbered them 4-1. Destroy them all. Show the galaxy that no one challenges the Empire. The Battle of Thacmer began at exactly 1432 Galactic Standard Time. It ended at 1449. 34 seconds later, Captain Choi Hajin watched from her bridge as the human fleet moved like a perfectly choreographed dance. The ships did not charge forward like the Thackerone expected. Instead, they seemed to phase in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. "Quantum torpedoes away," reported Commander Yoon, targeting their flagship. The weapons that launched from the human ships were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They moved through space like living things, adjusting their course to hit exactly where they would do the most damage. The Thackerone shields, which had protected them against every other species, crumbled like paper. "Their command ship is breaking apart," Yoon reported, his voice amazed. "Hi, Admiral Krex's vessel is ... gone. Completely gone." The Thackerone fleet tried to fight back, but their weapons could not hit targets they could barely see. The human ships moved too fast, appeared and disappeared too quickly. When the Thackerone fired their massive energy cannons, they hit empty space. Meanwhile, across all of Thackerone's space, something else was happening. Automated weapons platforms that had been secretly placed during the human reconnaissance missions began activating. These platforms had been waiting quietly in asteroid fields and behind moons. The platforms were incredibly precise. They destroyed military bases, weapons factories, and warship construction yards, but hospitals remained untouched. Schools were ignored. Civilian homes were left completely alone. It was like a surgical operation performed by a master doctor. Kepler 44 to B, Dr. Nali, and the other Villani. Survivors watched through the shelter's periscope as something incredible happened above them. The Thackerone ships that had been terrorizing their world for weeks suddenly started fleeing into space. The occupation soldiers abandoned their posts and ran for their transport ships. "Look at them run," whispered Elder Kesh, hardly believing what he was seeing. Through the periscope, they could see sleek, beautiful ships pursuing the fleeing Thackerone vessels. These new ships moved like liquid mercury, flowing through space with impossible grace. "Who are they?" asked one of the Villani. "Children," Dr. Nali smiled for the first time in weeks.
"Our guardians."
"The ones who answered our call." Back in the battle above Thakmer, the human fleet was demonstrating something that terrified every military commander in the galaxy who was watching. They were not just winning, they were showing perfect control. Not a single civilian target had been hit. Not one hospital or school had been damaged, Captain. Choi received a surrender message from what was left of the Thackerone fleet. "Admiral, they are asking for mercy. Their remaining ships are powering down weapons." "Accepted," Choi replied. "But they will surrender unconditionally. All conquered worlds will be freed. All Thackerone military forces will be relocated to their home system only." The message was sent to every corner of the galaxy. In 17 minutes, the most powerful military empire in known space had been completely defeated by a species that most people thought was extinct. On space stations and planets throughout the galaxy, alien diplomats and military leaders watched. The recordings of the battle in stunned silence. Humans had not just won, they had made it look easy. "How is this possible?" asked the Zentari ambassador to his aide. "We had reports that humanity was gone forever." Apparently his aide replied, "They were just sleeping." The Thackerone survivors were given a choice: live peacefully in their home system under human supervision, or face complete extinction. Most chose to live. Within days, the Thackerone occupation forces had withdrawn from all 37 worlds they had conquered. Refugee ships began returning to their home planets. The galaxy watched in amazement as world after world was freed without the humans asking for anything in return. Admiral J stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, looking out at the stars. The battle was over, but he knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy had been reminded that some things should never be forgotten. "Send a message to all human colonies," he ordered. "Tell them the Shepherd Protocol is now permanent. We are no longer hiding." 6 months after the Thackerone Empire fell, Dr. Nali stood in the newly rebuilt Villani Council chamber. The room was beautiful again, with crystal walls that caught the light and made rainbows dance across the floor. Sitting across from her was Admiral Kim Jae and his officers, the humans who had saved her people. Dr. Nali's voice was soft, but full of emotion as she spoke through her translator device. "We can never thank you enough for what you did. But we must ask, where have you been all this time?" The whole galaxy thought humans were dead or gone forever. Admiral J smiled, but his eyes looked sad and tired. "We were always here. We were watching from the shadows. The last time humanity tried to help other species, we were called tyrants and monsters, even when we had good intentions. So we decided to step back and learn how to be better protectors." Commander Park Soman, now wearing admiral stripes on her uniform, added, "We spent 200 years becoming stronger and wiser. We decided that if we were going to be guardians, we needed to do it the right way." The Guardian Protocol, as the humans called their new system, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human monitoring stations appeared in hidden locations. Throughout space, ships that most sensors could not detect patrolled the darkness between stars. The message was clear, but never spoken aloud. Peaceful species could grow and develop without fear. Captain Choi Hajin, now promoted to admiral and commander of the Guardian fleet, worked from her mobile command center aboard the Soul's Pride. Her ship moved constantly throughout human space, never staying in one place too long. She reviewed reports from dozens of other ships doing the same job. 3 more distress calls this month, reported Commander Yoon, who is now her second in command. 2 problems were solved just by our ships being seen in the area.
The third
Required us to have a conversation with some pirates. Admiral Choi nodded. The galaxy was learning quickly that humanity had returned, but not as conquerors. They had become something far more frightening to those who hurt innocent people. They had become judges and executioners. Most conflicts ended before they began. When aggressive species detected human ships in a system, they usually found reasons to be somewhere else very quickly. The few who tested human resolve learned painful lessons. The Corvin Syndicate had been raiding peaceful merchant ships for profit. When a human destroyer appeared near their base, the Syndicate leader tried to negotiate. We can share the profits. The Corvin leader offered over the communication channel. The human captain's response was simple. You have 1 hour to release all prisoners and surrender. After that, we stop asking nicely. The Syndicate released their prisoners in 43 minutes. On Terra Nova Station, Admiral J looked out at the stars through his office window. The view never got old, but the responsibility was heavy. Admiral Park joined him with the daily reports, as she did every morning. The Galactic Council sent another message, she reported. They want to formally recognize human territory and invite us to join their government. Same answer as always, Jay replied without turning around. We decline. Let them handle politics and trade agreements. We will handle the monsters. The Galactic Council was made up of 12 major species who tried to keep peace through meetings and paperwork. They were good at solving problems with words, but they had no real power to stop species like the Thackerone. The humans filled that gap perfectly. Dr. Nali had become the official Villani ambassador to humanity. She spent most of her time on human space stations, learning about their technology and culture. What she discovered amazed her. Your people could rule the entire galaxy if you wanted to, she told Admiral J during one of their regular meetings. Your ships, your weapons, your technology, no one could stop you.
Oh.
That is exactly why we do not do it, Jay replied. Power without wisdom is just another form of bullying. We learned that lesson the hard way. The humans had established what they called the Sanctuary Zone, a large area of space where peaceful species could develop without interference. Any aggressive species that entered this zone uninvited quickly found themselves surrounded by human ships. Young species that were just learning to travel between stars were given special protection. The humans remembered what it was like to be small and vulnerable in a dangerous galaxy. The Tillery were a bird-like species who had just invented faster-than-light travel. When the Bextran Empire tried to conquer their homeworld, they found human ships already waiting in orbit. This system is under protection, the human captain announced. Leave now, or we will remove you. The Bextron fleet left immediately. They had heard what happened to the Shack's "Ron in the depths of space." Automated monitoring stations continued their eternal watch. They listened to every signal, tracked every ship, and reported anything suspicious to human command centers. Galaxy had learned a fundamental truth: humanity had never disappeared. They had simply been waiting, growing stronger, preparing for the day when they would be needed again. The sleeping giants had awakened. They had no intention of sleeping again. In the darkness between stars, ancient guardians stood ready to answer the call of the innocent. They brought swift justice to those who preyed on the weak. And they did it with the cold precision of a species that had learned from its mistakes. The galaxy was safer now, though most people never saw their protectors. And that was exactly how the humans wanted it.